So today we're talking about the God of order and the God of produce. Now let's first talk about the God of order. We see this in Genesis chapter 1, verses 6 through 10, and then 14 through 19. God, the God of order. After bringing light into a dark world, we see God begin to form this world. So on day 2, we have God creating an expanse, or what we call sky or heaven. By doing this, God separated the waters that were below and the waters that were above the expanse. What exactly are the waters above the expanse? That's a great question. I'm not really sure. Some people think that refers to the atmosphere. Some think it refers to clouds. Or some believe that it refers to a dome of water that once surrounded the earth. Whatever it means, it shows that God began to separate the waters out. He began to do things that weren't already done. He's beginning to order this world. And then the next thing he does is bring dry land. God moves to the watery earth, commands dry land to appear. What once was just a watery blob, I guess, now has structure. You have at least one ocean bordering a continent of land. You got structure. You begin to see order. If you skip ahead to the fourth day, we see God bringing even more form, more order to the universe. Here he commands the sun, moon, and stars to exist and to move into their proper place, to enter into their orbits. And then he commands that wherever we don't know, wherever the light was emanating from before that he created on day 1, wherever that was providing light to the earth before, now the sun, moon, and stars would be providing the light for the earth. So that becomes the natural light source of the earth. All this shows that God is a God of order. He created that order and he maintains it by his power. You know, it's unlike the demonic gods of the other people that Moses had encountered, that the people of Israel were living amongst. You know, here we have God, the I Am. He establishes order by his own free will. He is choosing to create the expanse. He's choosing to create dry land. He is choosing to put the sun, moon, and stars and give them the responsibility of shining light upon the earth. It all shows that God is a God of order. He doesn't want things just to go randomly. He doesn't want things just to fly apart. He's holding everything together. He has ordered it and is maintaining that order. It draws our attention too to think about ourselves, I think. And if you think about the story of Job, you remember the story of Job? And Job had some questions for God. And one of the things that Job was asked by God when God encountered Job was, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? So one of God's arguments against Job was, were you there when I did all these things in the beginning? Were you there on days 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5? You know, were you there when I began to lay the foundations of the earth, to call dry land into existence? Were you there? It's a good question for us to think about too. You know, when I'm complaining about, well, why is this happening? You know, was I there when God created the foundation of the earth? So how can I start to complain because I don't know what's going on? The second thing I want to talk about is that God is the God over produce. And that's verses 11 through 13. Let's go back to day 3. On this day, God spoke, and the earth sprouted with all kinds of plants. I've always imagined this kind of in the C.S. Lewis way. You ever read the fictional book, Magician's Nephew, in the Chronicles of Narnia series? He talks about Aslan, the Jesus kind of character, is creating Narnia, the fictional world, and he's singing his song. And as these people are looking out and seeing the earth before them being formed and all these things happening, they see the grass just explode from the ground like a wave that rolls across the ground, goes up the hills, and goes out of sight. More and more plants shoot up from the ground. They see trees popping up, reaching up to their full height. Then the trees grow quickly, and you see God created all these different kinds of plants on day 3. He would create all these different kinds of plants that would reproduce by seed. He did all this. He created all these plants. For what reason? It was for provision. God was the God over the produce of the land. He was the God of harvest. Day 3 is important because it shows us that God is the one that provides for all the inhabitants of the earth. He is the Lord of the harvest. This destroys the notion of Mother Earth, doesn't it? See, there was people in Moses' day that worshiped the earth as a god. They had feelings. They could retaliate when it was angered. It was Mother Nature who provided for all that we need. But God says, can you hunt the prey for the lion? Who provides the raven its prey? That's another thing that Job was asked. It is God who provides and sustains his earth. He provides for his creatures that he creates. Day 3 shows us that he always provides. He has provided before they even existed. He was ready to provide for all their needs. See, people are afraid of climate change. We're all afraid of the coronavirus and this and that, but God is the originator, provider, and sustainer of all. The next thing we see is also that God is over the sky and over the deep. Let's go to verses 20 and 23. There were water and flying creatures. On day 5, God speaks and all kinds of different birds and sea creatures existed. Then there was a blessing. After creating them, he speaks a blessing over them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas. Let the birds multiply on the earth. See, God blessed them with the ability to reproduce themselves on the earth. He would not just populate the planet or keep populating planet after the fall, but it would allow them to reproduce through a natural process. Though it is a natural process, it is under the sovereign will and gaze of God. Again, we go back to Job. God says, is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes his nest on high? Of course, Job could say, well, no, I didn't do that. But God says, yeah, the reason why there's little baby eagles up there is because I commanded that eagle to go up, make its nest, and to have its babies up there. I did that, not you. So we see on these days of creation, God creates order. He creates animals, the sea creatures and the birds. He's beginning to bring order. He brings the plants in there to provide for all their needs. He's getting ready for day 6, which is coming.